yes, that notion of meat eating still a current big debate in the world, even though more and more people are becoming vegetarian or vegan. But yeah, the basic notion that one understands once one has started to meditate and go within and becomes aware of energy inside, when you eat meat or fish, you are actually absorbing dead energy which has suffered in the process of dying. You know, everything is energy, no matter how much you think you are aware of it or not, and whatever excuses you can make. You know, you work by exchange of energy from the outside to the inside, and there are the mental, spiritual energy and the physical energies. One main one, which is the basic of life, the thread of life in you, is you breathing. You breathe air all the time until you die, since you're born. That is the one type of energy you get from the outside world, and it remains the ultimate notion of material energy. If you go deeper and deeper in concentration, in meditation, you will see that it becomes the last thread linking you to that aliveness with that breath. And then there is the food, right? Of course, the food is a big part of what makes up your body and the brain to function healthily or not. And as much as most people, of course, think that eating is half for sustaining life and half for pleasure, the pleasure of the birds, the pleasure of taste, well, that also brings in again the defilement of the mind. As if you eat for taste, and as again the people who have understood that for decades have added all those processed food and chemical products and toxic products to the food, exactly to make you more and more addicted and dependent on the taste rather than on the healthy part of the food. And as it is known for monks in Buddhism, before eating they should chant that part, which mainly says that food is only to sustain the body and keep it alive, so you can actually keep on practicing to become a wise being. But food is not for the pleasure of the sense, of the taste. And then that notion of killing other beings, sentient beings, is as much as, again, the whole lobbying is trying to promote that for the sake of business, as they look at other beings, live beings, as commodities only, right? It's business and commodities, so desensitized. They have no feeling, no emotion, as you do, as a meat eater or fish eater. Because, as we all know, for most of you, if you had to kill yourself, that animal, you wouldn't do it. And there are already a few experiments and videos that have been done, and especially with children, right? So again, it's total hypocrisy around that. And as much as the lobbying is trying to still promote the protein thing, issue, whatever, we all know now also from many documentaries that very famous healthy people, athletes, have been vegan for decades and they feel full of energy. So But then again, it's the whole typical hypocrisy that characterizes the human mind of turning the blind eye on some facts when it doesn't suit that ego, doesn't make one look good, because it's always all about that. So pretending to like animals or to feel sorry for animals who get killed and murdered and tortured, but still eating meat. The same as, for that, I'm so baffled by veterinarians who pretend, many of them, to be there again to help, heal, cure, rescue animals, but actually they still eat meat or fish. Same thing. That makes you a total hypocrite. But we know that, at least in the West, to become a vet is pretty challenging studies, and in one way it reveals, unfortunately, the sadistic side that many humans still have, or the careless, unfaithful side of many humans when they have to deal with animals, and to experiment and try to become a vet. Just as we know that Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, was originally a vet. And we can tell that those guys have the mentality of totally being desensitized towards animals and the suffering of other sentient beings, and rather enjoy satisfying to the sadistic instinct by experimenting different kind of drugs and whatever, medicine, pharmaceutical, toxic products, viruses on other beings, just as Fauci has been exposed in the US with the experiment that he does on all those animals, and those sadistic people, they enjoy experimenting all kind of parasites and viruses on other sentient beings, and they don't care, of course, about the suffering. So you might think that you're not to that extreme, yet if you support the killing and torturing and murdering of other sentient beings by enjoying your meat or fish eating, you are still quite a bit on that side of things. Again, it's always the same fake hypocrite excuse of say, I'm not as bad as these people, but then it is still the same. When you support with the blind eye, exactly as a coward who wouldn't do it himself or herself, but still support that industry, you align with those values. And then you don't mind, actually, and you are totally unaware, of course, because you're already quite brain dead, and you are just having and satisfying to your quite primitive instinct. As originally, when we talk about humans, we talk about kind of hunter-gatherers. So again, it's eating the meat and killing other beings for food is still only satisfying to that very primitive instinct. So that's the level you are at. Very primitive mind, or quite brain dead mind, exactly because you are eating so much of dead energy that suffered, which is why you will bring bad karma still in your life that way and not become a wise being. So yeah, humans ultimately supposedly evolved into developing agriculture. But again, many people want to make a point to remain at the very basic primitive level, satisfying the basic instinct, because it goes together with the rest, with the other basic primitive instinct of the mind and defilement. And that goes with violence like that. So also, to kill another being is a violent act, and to support that is not much better. So that's why, again, as we see now during election times in some places, especially American election coming, and all those crowds, and what's happening in the Middle East, many places in the world, of course, humans killing each other, not even for the sake of food or survival, but just for the sake of the superficial, ignorant level of territory or culture or religion, confirms that most humans on this planet are still very not developed, very primitively minded, satisfying to the primitive instincts, and that's why there still won't be peace as we see, and getting worse, because the ones in charge, they still make sure to satisfy and reinforce your primitive instincts rather than make you an evolved human being as a spiritual being who can gain some wisdom. The ones controlling the world are exactly having an agenda, and now there is Agenda 2030, right, in place with the Great Reset and the New World Order, as Mr. Schwab, who should know a great deal of what's coming or what's planned, has warned that there will be some major events coming soon. So it's the whole conditioning and brainwashing agenda, which works really well with primitively minded human beings, which are not very sapient, and to satisfy to those and reinforce those basic instincts, primitive instincts. So that's why there's more and more violence, more and more divide, more and more hatred, based on the most superficial nonsense values of life. But that's working. It's been in place for decades now. After World War II, they really ensure to put that in place. That's why, when people were happy to try to have a good life and there was some kind of prosperity after World War II, and actually, it led also to in one way, the revolt against wars, people dodging the draft against the Vietnam War and all this kind of, that old guard that still had that primitive mind of let's go to war, let's conquer this country or this country, let's blah blah. Always false flags anyway, but well conditioned. Then there was the big rebellion against that, and then you suddenly had the hippies and the people who were just preaching peace and love, which is legitimate and how it should be, how humans should evolve, even though I don't support very much the basic hippie mentality with the pot smokers and all like that, which doesn't help to develop a wise spiritual brain at a higher level. As long as you are a big smoker, you are still at low vibration, of course, because you are just an addict anyway. But the point is that suddenly there was a big culture of let's be nice, let's be good humans, let's make the world about peace and love. And then those very evil old guard beings in control already, those big families in charge who developed the banking system and the political system, the governments in the main countries, blah, blah, blah. They decided, and they saw the danger of that, to threat the system of enslaving the world population, to make them good, dumbed down labor, which George Carlin explains or exposes very well in his skits. But so that's why they decided to destroy as soon as possible the good values that were emerging stronger. There was that wave of foreigners suddenly discovering Southeast Asia, discovering Buddhism and Hinduism and the real spirituality and the truth behind. And that's the point again, the Nazis during the war had been already exploring that, right? That's why they put Hitler in place, because he was charismatic. But they had also, the real intellectual Germans had a good understanding of the esoteric science and power, and that's why they had studied Buddhism. And those people who had already supernatural powers in one way, extraordinary capacities. And that's why they decided they would become the Aryan race, the superior race, the powerful kind of human. Also, which actually in the meaning in Pali originally it is Aryan means like superior, but in the sense of noble, the true noble beings. But the true noble beings are those who have achieved that level of wisdom and awareness and beyond the regular human capacities through the practice. But the Germans, of course, as regular humans with the bad intention, evil-minded, they still assume that they could become that from the intellectual level, just like the people who are controlling the world now, the globalists. They think they are superior because they are so-called smart, probably school smart that way, but they're not intelligent beings. They're very evil-minded with bad intention, of course, but because of that ego, the stupid ego, they think of themselves as superior, whatever. So anyway, that's why they try to learn from that Asian science of transcending life and our existence to become a superior being, a true noble being. But then, of course, it cannot work when you have the wrong intention and the wrong mind. At the same time, when it realized that the general public, the population, was getting into these values exactly for the right intention and the right way to bring peace and love in this world and only develop spiritually, then they really made a point to gather the forces together everywhere and crush that whole movement and make sure that people were going to get more and more distant from the ability for introspection, to go within and to develop the spiritual capacity, and rather become more and more superficial, more and more materialistic, which is why they really pushed for consumerism through advertising, and it worked again well because still most humans were pretty basic minded, and so they developed that notion of a materialistic greed to make you think that you were evolving into a higher quality of life. Yeah, look at that quality of life that you have now, actually, with all the toxic chemicals everywhere and not a healthy mind, not a healthy environment, nothing healthy anymore. Anyway, but that was the point, that was the agenda. They figured out that, and especially after the war and then the development of all the processed food, the GMOs, and putting all the chemicals in the food, in the soil, in the water, and experimenting at the great scale like this, without restriction at the time, of course. It took a while for supposedly some institution to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe there is some risk involved and maybe we should start to manage all that and assess, but it was already too late, of course. So, and now we realize that all those agencies, CDC, FDA, whatever, for each country, they are all sold out to the lobbyist, the big corporation, of course. So it's all correct, of course, as usual. Those people control everything at every level, as you can see some diagrams or connecting the dots, right? Connecting between the corporation and who is at the head of which, and then the conflict of interest everywhere, all across the board, of course. But that's the point. So some humans wanted to develop into better beings, the peace and love mentality, which is what should prevail as an intelligent human, as a sapiens human. But those guys made sure to crush everything, as they were already in control of the big corporations and the banks, which is then the main tools to control the whole world. And then they made sure that to expand that control further and further and further. So again, that goes back to that whole mentality. And so when you're still a meat eater and you try to justify it, you're just at the low level of that kind of primitive mindset, and you support violence anyway, and you don't have a peaceful mind, of course, and you won't have a peaceful mind. So you're not for peace and love at all. You're for the opposite, for violence, murder, and then the whole competition, comparison with others, just like those people in charge in the world have managed to instill in almost everybody's mind from the school system. Again, it's all competition, comparison, not support each other. The great divide, dividing people. Now COVID was a good example, like some people say, to see, like one quote said, it's not that your neighbor became a bad person during COVID, it's just that they revealed the true face, the true sides, the true values, when they snitch on each other, and they are very proud to repeat the official narrative and follow the rules and ensure that everybody else would follow the official rules because they think that's the right way to be a good pawn on the chess game. Just supporting the very Nazi agenda. It's all Nazi agenda still on, of course. A Nazi experiment by Nazi expert doctors, when the official narrative try to present these people as expert. Yeah, they are expert in Nazi experiment. They are true Nazi doctor with that Nazi mindset that hasn't changed. Exactly like Fauci and Gates, and who has some forefront figures, but it's still that mind exactly back then, same like from the Nazi regime, and trying to thinking that they can belong to the superior race, the elite controlling the world, and trying to enslave, brainwash, degenerate, lobotomize the rest of the world, the rest of the population, to experiment on, to depopulate the ones that are useless, that will not become good labor, slave to follow. And talking about degenerate, again on a topic that is not popular nowadays to go against, which is the whole woke cancel culture, but it's exactly what it is. Again, those people who justify the whole, woke thing and transgender thing, and I mean, you look at them, they wear it on their face, from the colors of their hair to all what they do to their bodies. This is exactly what a degenerate human being is. So from back then, I will just give you my 2 cents on that, which for me again makes sense, is very clear and simple, is that as part of that agenda that they started a couple of generations ago or more, is when those people would say, but no, I don't become like that, I was born like that, then I got to understand that, yes, exactly, in one way they don't have the choice, and they were born that way only exactly because they are degenerate humans from those decades of experimenting on humans at every level, from brain control through the media, TV at the time, radio, TV, and advertisement, of course, and then mainly all the chemicals everywhere in the food, the processed food, the GMO. Now the spraying of chemicals in the sky. So I mean, as we know, so it's all full of chemicals in the soil, in the water, in the rivers, in the air, and in the sky now with all those chemtrails. So yeah, that's why that's simple. That all this only has one outcome: to create more and more degenerate humans. because all this goes against nature. So, and then because there's more and more of them and they don't know better, then they try to justify again, like any human, any human being is led by ego, and that ego always try to justify its ways. But it's that simple. So they don't have the choice, yes, they are born that way, yes. Unfortunately, still confirming that this is the degenerate part of humans, and it's more and more, just like autism, right? Again, there's enough, I know with RFK Jr. Has exposed enough, and other guys, you can see that the more vaccines, the more autism, and the places where people have managed to resist the pressure of vaccination, then there's almost no autism. There's no autism. It depends. Like again, America as the craziest country for that, the most advanced, yes, in experimentation like that though, on population straight as the most degenerate population in the world that way. And you can see it now. I mean, it's out there. You see the videos that people post, and you see in the streets and in the cities, and the politicians themselves. But then they have the Amish, right? And then when you look at the Amish, well, they went through COVID very well. There's no autism. Well, right? They don't like chemicals. They don't like vaccine. So it's right there. So that was the rant of the day. Trying to go and touch on different topics, starting from just the fact of eating meat and fish, and supporting the killing and slaughter and torture and murder of other sentient beings. That keeps you at that primitive level of human beings, primitive mind, opposite of becoming a wise, developed, noble human with wisdom. So yeah, actually, if you developed a vegetarian diet or vegan diet, first, as usual, I mean, you're just a human being, you work by habits, and your body is got into habits. So if you change your diet, of course the body will revolt. So some people will say, well, when I started to be vegetarian, or I tried to be vegetarian or vegan for some time, I didn't feel good. Yes, of course. If you are used to all the unhealthy food and the sweets and the sugar, again, sugar has been put in everything because they figured sugar is very addictive and it makes the taste good, right? That's why they have put sugar in everything. That was one of the old simple discoveries, putting the sugar. Just like some people, and they showed in some movies, how sugar is more addictive than cocaine. So, but that's just one example. But yes, so, I mean, there's enough that has been said for a long time, where diet has a lot of meat that people have those cardiovascular disease. But if you change your diet into a healthier one, yes, of course, the body will revolt for some time. You won't feel good maybe for some time. That's just how it is. And again, for the taste, it happened myself. When I was younger, I was quite addicted to sweets. And then lately, and I could even imagine one day to straight drink or eat some lemon. And there were many things that I thought didn't taste good like that. Of course, when you put in your mouth, you're just like a baby face that doesn't like at all what he's getting in his mouth. But over time, you learn to see and feel that you are actually ingested very healthy food and nutrients, and that it's turning your body into a healthy body and lighter. So the thing also with vegetarian or vegan diet especially, is that you will get lighter and lighter actually, and things will flow better in your body. Of course, you have to have a balanced diet too, right? That's the point of, people need to do a bit of research, of course, and try to have a balanced diet, which is what has always been supposed to be. It's not about becoming vegetarian or vegan, but with very unbalanced diet. So, but then if you do that, your body will become leaner, lighter, and everything will flow easier inside. And that also is very good for meditation, and it helps for sure to reach deeper level of concentrations and higher level of meditation, and to be able to detach from that body and to reach higher level and transcend that aliveness of the body, physical body, into other realms. So yeah, making a point to still be addicted to meat, eating and fish is still that very primitive mindset, not evolved human. And then the opposite is becoming vegetarian, at least vegan, to expand the mind, becoming lighter, everything more lean and free inside the body and flowing easily. Then it will allow to expand the mind both ways, intellectually as an open mind to new things, new idea, new lifestyle, new diet, and a real mind expansion into the higher realms of existence, into pure wisdom and awareness. That's it. So now I will try to do more of these audio, maybe some videos on topics that come up like that. Before I would write some rants, but I would have taken a long time to write all that, and I guess it's more efficient in audio or video. So yeah, when I post some memories or new things on my timeline, sometimes it just inspires me at once. So I will try to make those audios or maybe videos addressing those topics. Let me know if you find that interesting or not.